The first expense a business has is capital expenses. Remember, capital means a lot of money. So when you buy an asset, like equipment or vehicles, that is a capital expense. It is an asset that will last for more than a year. So it's not things you buy every month or every day. You buy it once, it costs a lot of money, and then hopefully it will last you a couple of years. Capital expenses are also used to carry out business. So you buy furniture for your workers to sit on, like tables and chairs. You buy computers for your workers to work on. It's the assets your workers need in order for them to do their job correctly. So any big expense that will last for more than a year, we refer to as capital expenses. Operating income is the cost of paying for your day-to-day activities. When you think of operating income, you will remember that was the income you earn through your daily functions of the business. What was the purpose of the business? It was to sell goods or deliver a service. Then you received an income. The same with operating expenses. It is your day-to-day activities. So what do you need in order for your workers to do their jobs? You need the telephone, you need water, electricity, stationery like paper and pens. You even need cleaning materials and to pay for insurance. You also have to pay salaries of your workers. So operating income is basically all the activities you pay for on a month-to-month, day-to-day basis. It's the small expenses that heaps up at the end of a month, and you need them to carry out your day-to-day activities. Financing expenses has to do with interest. Unfortunately, paying interest and not receiving interest. When I'm in class, I informally refer to financing expenses as interest expenses. Like we had interest income for any money we saved or investments we have, so is the opposite a financing expense. When we borrow money or when we buy things on credit, we sometimes have to pay interest if we cannot settle those accounts on time. So the bank will charge us interest according to an interest rate. There are 4 examples of things that we have to pay interest on. The first one is interest on loan. Second, interest on mortgage bond. Third, interest on overdraft. And the fourth one, interest on overdue accounts. If we take out a loan from a bank, we have to pay back that loan per month. The bank or any financial institute then charges us an interest rate. So we have to pay a certain percentage of the money we borrowed back to the bank. Interest on mortgage bond, that refers to money that you loan from a bank to buy property. You again have an interest rate per month. So even though you maybe buy the property for R1,000,000 and you take out a loan for R1,000,000, at the end of your 20 years you pay for the house, you will probably be paying more or less R3,000,000. So you had R2,000,000 in interest. Interest on overdraft bank accounts. That means you do not have money in your bank. You are in negative, so you are actually owing the bank money. And they then charge you interest for every rand you went over your account limit. So it's an easy way for them to make money. You already owe them money, and now they are charging you more money for the fact that you went into overdraft. And the last one, interest on overdue accounts. That is when you bought something on credit and the supplier put it on an account for you and you were not able to pay that account within 30 days or 60 days, depending on your contract. So now that supplier is obviously getting desperate for their money, which they haven't received from your business, and they charge you interest. So even though you only received goods worth 5,000 Rand, you might end up paying a lot more for those goods because you could not pay your account on time. Remember, when we talk about financing expenses, you have to use the word interest on, interest on, interest on. You cannot tell me an example of a financing expense is a loan or a mortgage bond. You have to focus on the fact that it's the interest on these 4 examples. The last type of expense is wasteful expenses. If you go back to personal expenses, you would remember we also discussed wasteful expenses. It was those expenses that was unnecessary. So like leaving lights on, paying for stationery, paying for food, but you just waste it and you throw it away. You don't really use it. Examples of unnecessary costs will include things like telephone, water, electricity, any expense that you pay for but don't use properly. You could be wasting paper, you could be wasting ink, you could be wasting internet data costs for employees, maybe Facebooking or being on Instagram the whole day and not doing their jobs. If you have wasteful expenses in your business, your profit will definitely decrease. Now, next week, we will be discussing some of the wasteful expenses that businesses might have. And then, hopefully, we can think of some solutions, how we can prevent these wasteful expenses. Wasteful expenses can basically be any operating expense that is not used properly. So if you have a salary that you pay for someone, it is an operating expense. But as soon as you pay a salary to someone and they are not doing their jobs or they're not pitching up for work, that salary is actually a wasteful expense.